back to Double Down University. I'm back with you guys with another NFL Prizepicks video. And today I will be going over the Indianapolis Colts versus the Cincinnati Bengals matchup. And I have essentially two props, but it says three props, but they all correlate with each other, especially the Joe Mixon props because it's the same player. So the reason why I have Joe Mixon over 0.5 pass rushing and receiving touchdowns is in case he scores his touchdown, but he doesn't quite go over his fantasy, or he hooks on his fantasy at 15. So, or you can have it where both of them hit and you can separate them in two separate slips, where you could just have one as an insurance policy to the other, which I like because that's the sole way to be able to guarantee profit. So let's get into it. So let's start off with Gardner Minshew. I know this is kind of an odd prop. Everybody's like, why would you pick his rushing yards over his passing attempts or his passing yards? The main reason why is because he's hit this line in 5 out of his last 7 games. He's only went under twice, and then what was it, last week? Yeah, last week he went under by 0.5. So that was kind of a tough one for his rushing yards. But another thing that I noticed going through like the stats and stuff is that they have Cincinnati has allowed every quarterback, not even a rushing quarterback, just every quarterback that they've played to go over this line of 2.5, except for one person, which is crazy, which is Josh Dobbs. He's the only one that went under this rushing yard total. But every other guy, as you can see here, every other quarterback has gotten at least 3 yards rushing against them. And then also Cincinnati plays man coverage at the 10th highest rate. I know you're going to hear me say this a lot with man and zone coverages, but being as though they play a lot of man coverages, a lot of the cornerbacks or slot corners, their backs will be turned to the quarterback whenever they're, trying to guard their man and trying to, figure out what route they're running down the field. So that could lead to open rushing lanes to be able to run. Long as he's able to, just get a couple yards. If he just, bootlegs it out to the sideline and gets a couple yards and gets out of bounds, as long as he gets a little 3 yards, we should be fine. The only thing I could see where this negatively correlates is that if Tennessee at any point is in position to win the game and they have to kneel the ball at the end of the game where, you get negative yards, so that's the only thing I could think of where you can possibly go under. And I think that was probably a scenario where he had -1 rushing yards was most likely a win. Let me see if I can go back and check that. So, yep, he had -1 rushing yards, and that actually was against New England, which I'm pretty sure they won that game. So that could be the only reason why he would go, in the negative or just under, that total of 2.5. So hopefully he gets like a big run for like 10, 15 yards or so. But they're in the middle of a playoff push, so they should be going for it as far as, offensively. And then also what I liked about the Colts is that their defense is really good at creating turnovers and being able to get the ball and put the ball into the offense's hands at advantageous positions, which is short fields and things of that nature. So I really, really like his rushing yards at over 2.5. Now getting into Joe Mixon, this is a really good spot for him as well because he won't have to really worry about splitting carries with Chase Brown. Chase Brown had a really good game on Monday night last week, so he's nursing a little hamstring injury, and those injuries is kind of tough. You don't want to rush somebody back too quick because they can run the risk of re-injuring that injury. So he shouldn't have to split carries, and also he has scored in 4 out of the last 6 games a touchdown, so that's boding well for him as well. Cincinnati are the favorites. If they go up, Mixon will get a lot of touches, and then also Indianapolis is is actually the number 1 zone team in the NFL, so they run a lot of zones. So what that leads to is a lot of dump offs, little screen passes, and things of that nature to kind of just get the ball out of Browning's hands to be able to get him out in the flats. And as you can see, last week he had 7 targets and he had 6 catches for 49 yards, 2 catches for 44 yards the week prior on 2 targets. So he's catching, the last 2 weeks he's catching like almost 90% of the passes thrown to him or 90% of the targets thrown to him, which is good. So if he's getting 7, basically 7 targets and he gets 5 catches out of that, he should clear his fantasy if he scores. As well as his rushing, I think he should have a pretty solid day on the ground as well, rushing. to go along with his receiving prowess as well. So I really like Joe Mixon to score and to be able to go over his fantasy score in this matchup. So those are my 2 or/3 props for this game as well. And I'll go back over them. Gardner Minshew over 2.5 rushing yards. I have Joe Mixon over 0.5 touchdowns, and as well as over 15 fantasy score as well for him. I appreciate you guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.